Welcome to Nanobug Studios, and I got the tire off the rim. Not gonna tell you how I did it though, but I got it off. And with that, I'm gonna tell you about this right here. All right, AM crystal radios on the nanoscale. You can build AM crystal radios that don't take any batteries at all. All it takes is the AM radio station moving through the air, and it's the conductor, the wire, and it's AC power. The AC power goes from that crystal through the wire to the first crystal. It turns it to DC power because it's a diode. The second crystal vibrates. It vibrates at the exact same frequency as the sound that went into the microphone. What this means is you can put that crystal on a diaphragm, a paper cup, a styrofoam cup or something. Anyway, and it'll vibrate and you can hear the AM radio station. Now, remember that. Here's the next thing. At Oxford University, they're taking entangled particles and put them in crystals. This was years and years ago. But the nitrogen void in crystals, which is the imperfection in crystal, they can put the entangled particle. What is an entangled particle? Entangled particles are particles that are put under certain conditions, like actually they're doing it with molecules now, but they've done it with started off with the particles of like 2 protons, 2 photons, 2 neutrons, 2 electrons, or electron, photon, and a proton. They can mix them up, but anyway, they put them under certain conditions and they become entangled. Another way to become entangled is they shoot a laser through certain crystal under certain conditions, and it's not very complicated conditions either, but and every once in a while the photon will split. Now what they do is they catch that split photon, but it doesn't split into 2 halves. What it does is it splits into 2 photons that have the same mass as the original photon. So those are entangled. They catch these 2 photons, say on some kind of screen, like, you know, that stuff you hold next to the light and it glows in the dark for a little while. Well, they can catch these entangled particles like that too, I guess. And anyway, there's other stuff they're doing. China's in America, I'm sure it has, but China's admitting to it. They're using it for entangled particles as radar, which kind of makes the stealth bombers and stuff obsolete, except for the fact that well, I'm sure we've nipped that one in the bud. So anyway, so it's not obsolete, what I'm saying. Even with the entangled particles, I'm sure that there's a way to get by them. Okay, so entangled particles in crystals of the AM crystal radio. Now, if we take those entangled particles and put them in a sea worm, as they did at Harvard University, which means they put them in sea worms, they put them in humans. The sea worm moved. This is what they're meant to. A young lady by the name of Jeannie Sloss. I'm not sure how to say her last name, but anyway, at Harvard University, she worked on this project, and she's very creative. Anyway, so what they did was put them in the sea worm. When the sea worm moved, the neurons fired in the sea worm, and the other entangled particle was in a sensor. And when the neurons fired, well, the entangled particle and the sensor had an effect on them. So what that means is we think with neurons, our brains think with neurons, and so it would be detectable via entangled particle. Now, so you take a mixture of crystal with entangled particles in it, and you take a conductor, say something that you're body already takes, like lithium, maybe, or I guess we got copper in our system, but I don't know about our brain. Um, let's say lithium does go to the brain, so does potassium and sodium. Anyway, it, not necessarily the brain though, because see, this is going to combine with the entire nervous system in relatively small amounts uh, as far as the entire nervous system goes, but large enough amounts to do this. Um, you throw in so you got a mixture of crystal and your conductor, and there your AM crystal radio. You got entangled particles in that though, and you throw in something that combines with the nervous system, like that brain food, the same substance found in jellyfish. I forgot what it's called, but there's a commercial that comes on all the time on the radios, and the same food, same substance found in jellyfish or something like that. It's supposed to help your memory and da da da. So anyway, we'll say you throw some of that in there. So now you have this mixture of all that and cook down to a powder. Now this powder in a teaspoon, say billions and billions and billions of little AM crystal radios will be in it, right? With entangled particles. That'll combine with the nervous system. Now, you take that and you put a little bit in some schmuck's food, drink, dope, whatever, and the length of the amount of the conductor determines what radio station you're listening to. So the amount of the conductor would change the um, from person to person, and that would keep everybody separated. All right, now you take that same mixture that you put in this guy, you take that mixture and you put it in what they call a quantum computer, or something like a quantum computer. Now, quantum computers are a fact, Jack. They work, and what they do, they've been working on them since well, they say they've been working on them since like 1969, 1970, something like that. They've been working on them a long time, put it that way. But the public's just now finding out about them. And what the quantum computers do is they work off entangled particles and superposition particles. And superposition particles can be on and off at the same time. They're like on and off switch, but they can be on and off at the same time, or anywhere in between, really. So when they have like a 32-bit quantum computer, that's a pretty awesome thing, because you can't play games on it at this time. But what you can do is you can put equations in it. It turns chaos into order, I guess you could say, because you could put equations in it that would take they estimate some equations. Oh, it would take the largest supercomputer in the world 1,000 years to get to the answer. But you can take that quantum computer and put it in there 15 seconds, right? So there's a lot of other things the quantum computer do. Mainly one, nanobug. Nanobugged. One word, two G's. Not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. And that's why it works. Quantum computers. Now you take the quantum computer and you put that same mixture as you had in this guy, and it'll be tagged to this guy, right? So when this guy is walking around, his body is a microphone, because the AM crystal radio works in reverse. See, the AM crystal radio works as a radio, and on a molecular scale, it would work as a transmitter, because the molecules of crystal would vibrate to the sound in the environment, or the person talking, or what have you, and that sound would cause vibration of the crystal. And when crystals vibrated at high rate of speed, and that would vibrate crystal on a molecular level, it'd be vibrating really fast. Then you put out an EMF, electrical magnetic force. Now, this electromagnetic force, or pulse, or whatever you want to call it, okay, it could be picked up from space, because they got, in the early 90s, they were putting things the size of a grain of rice in people, and pets and stuff, that could be tracked anywhere on Earth, the size of a grain of rice. So your nervous system is obviously bigger than the size of a grain of rice. Now, you take that um, right there in consideration. So you're picking up the sound waves by satellite, and you're sending them to the D-Wave quantum computer with the same nanobugs in it as this guy, right? So the quantum computer takes those vibrations and it matches it to the entangled particle. Now the entangled particle is going to be vibrating or having a spinning. They call it spinning, or it's not vibration, or it's probably more like a vibration than a spin. But anyway, a spin or a vibration of the entangled particles, which are not affected by the sound waves, but are affected by the neurons firing. Now, a lot of neurons, a lot of stuff going on in the nervous system, but that's what the quantum computer does. It takes chaos and it turns it into order very fast. So if they take those entangled particles and match it up to, or the quantum computer takes the entangled particles and matches them to the vibration of the crystal, because remember, the sound vibrates the crystal at the exact same frequency, whether it's in the D-Wave quantum computer or in your ear, the nervous system of your ear. So I'll get back to that in a minute. No, shit. Okay, so what happens is as the D-Wave quantum computer, that's one of the computers, the D-Wave quantum computer, of course, Google, Amazon, AT&T, there's a lot of military, as well as others, are working on their own quantum computers and have bought D-Wave quantum computers. So anyway, as the crystal is matched up to the entangled particle, because here's the deal: when you think a word, whether you say it or hear it, your brain fires the exact same pattern. I mean, that's just a fact, and it's going to fire the exact same pattern when you think it, say it, or hear it. So it doesn't take long for the vibration to be matched up with entangled particle, and once that's done, we pretty much don't need the vibration anymore of the crystal, because it can work totally off the entangled particle. When you think, it has an effect on the entangled particle because it's firing the neurons, and since it already has the vibration of the crystal to go by and stored that, it can replay the vibration of the crystal as sound to the entangled particle. So you think the D-Wave quantum computer talks. Long drawn out, but simple, very simple. As far as technology goes on the nanoscale, there's really, I mean, as far as like the human body goes, I mean, the way the DNA and chemicals and such work in the body, it's a lot of it is like machines, nano machines, doing, I mean, using leverage and such to make the molecules change, and using gears and using heat, and it's really a simple thing when compared to the other things of nature. Except this is natural. This is the government or the Taliban or ISIS. I don't know if ISIS has come to that yet, but I'm pretty sure the Taliban has, to read minds from anywhere on Earth. entangled particles work instantaneously. So they instantaneously can read a mind anywhere. Not just on Earth, you could go on the opposite side of the galaxy, and entangled particles work like that. You could put one entangled particle on this side of the galaxy and the other one on the other side of the universe. You know what? When you do something in the one, it instantaneously has an effect on the other. And that is that. Now, about the vibration of the crystal in the nervous system of the ear. See, as they read your mind, or as the D-Wave quantum computer talks, and those that listen, and I call them the brown recluses. The brown recluses listen. They have the option to talk back to what your mind said, and what they do is they'll talk into the microphone, and it'll vibrate the crystal in the ear nerves, because it's combined throughout the nervous system, as it can vibrate the crystal all through the body, but since it's in the ear nerves, that's what you hear. And you would hear it as if it was from the outside in, because that's the nerves in that sac of fluid in your ear. Well, see, when sound vibrates the eardrum, it causes a movement of the hammer bone, which is eventually vibrates the sac of fluid, and that sac of fluid has a nerve endings in it, and if they got entangled particles in them, then, or whether or not they have entangled particles, when they vibrates that sac of fluid, it vibrates the nerves in that sac of fluid, and that sends the signal to the brain, and that's what we call sound. Now, if those if those crystals are vibrating in the same nerve endings in the inner ear, then it's going to seem from the outside in. Now, the whole world's going to think you're crazy, think you're schizophrenic, and you might be, because schizophrenia has been around since the dawn of life, I guess, or brains, but at one time they blamed it on witchcraft, or one time they blamed it on gods, and one time they blamed it on wizards. So anyway, schizophrenia is there, but how do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference between a schizophrenic and somebody who's been nanobugged? Well, more than likely, if they're listening to you and you're someone they need to listen to, then they're probably not going to talk to you unless it's some kind of experiment or something, or they're taking their chances to see if they can maybe have you do some task, like, or not do some task that you were planning on doing. And if you're highly religious, you could interpret that as God voices or Allah voices or whatever, and maybe or maybe not buy into it. Personally, I was possibly nanobugged, or maybe I was just having a schizophrenic episode for 3 years or 4 years, but 3 years in a chunk of change. They talked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every second, every day, in response to what I was thinking. But it snowballed into that, and it's the way they started, and most of all, the way they ended, that leads me to believe there's a high possibility that I was nanobugged. Nanobugged, one word, 2 G's. And here's why it's a conspiracy fact, not a conspiracy theory. Because the CIA, the FBI, and the DEA were all watching the house I lived in, and that's no hallucination. They were actually there. CIA and the FBI came all the way from Washington, D.C. down to Dry Branch, Georgia, which is the geographical center of Georgia, to investigate my cousin for a job at the embassy in Russia as a maintenance man. And the DEA was there for damn good reasons. And we happened to grow up with a DEA agent, and he's a friend of mine. So, and the FBI and CIA were the references on my cousin's application, so they talked to the DEA agent, and all three, I mean, it was obvious, had to know what was going on. So, and that's when it all started, snowballing into what I have now. The book Nanobugged, Nanobugged, one word, two G's. Pass this on. And because I'd say not, there's probably only a handful of people, given the number of people in the world, we'll say a handful of people that are nanobugged. Personally, I guess I might still be if I ever was, but they don't talk to me anymore. They stopped in 2004. Suddenly. Stopped. But anyway, in the future though, maybe our kids, grandkids, see all this technology coming along with them telling us about the quantum computers, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world of quantum physics. All that going down. I see nanobugs is creeping into the scene slowly, but once it hits and it's accepted, well, they can do that. Okay, they can read our minds. Slight shock at first, but with the technology that's out there, it's not going to be too big of a shock. And it's probably going to become accepted as a way of life, and there's really just nothing we can do about it. I don't think there's any stopping it. I'm not trying to. I'm not saying let's all rebel and see if we can stop nanobugs, because it's out there and it's going to happen. It's just it's good to know, I guess. Good to know the world we live in, what's going on around us or in us, because they know more about what's going on in us, or have the option to know about more about what's going on in us than you thought before you seen this video, right? So pass it on to everybody you talk to. Tell them about Nanobug. Thanks for joining us, Nanobug Studios. Got that tire off the rim. Good night, or good day.